Hey, I'm so grateful you're here. Welcome back to the conversation. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that I know so many of you are feeling in your hearts right now. When a man hurts you, confuse him like this. Vertical bar, take back your power. We're going to talk about shifting from pain to peace and moving from reaction to real internal power. If this message resonates with you, or if you know someone who needs to hear this today, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share these tools for healing with the world. Let's start this journey together. We've all been there. You're staring at your phone, waiting for a text that isn't coming, or replaying a conversation in your head where you felt small, unseen, or undervalued. In that moment, your instinct is to react. How sharply? You want to scream, you want to explain your worth, or you want to hurt them back so they understand the depth of your pain. But here's the truth we often miss. When you react with the same energy that hurt you, you aren't taking your power back. You're giving them the remote control to your emotions. Most advice tells you to get even or make him jealous. That's low-level frequency. If you want to truly shift the dynamic, you don't use anger, you use alignment. When a man hurts you, he expects a specific set of responses: tears, confrontation, or desperate pursuit. When you deny him those predictable patterns, you create a psychological pattern interrupt. This isn't about games or manipulation. It's about becoming so rooted in your own purpose and peace that his chaos no longer finds a home in you. Confusion isn't a weapon you wield. It's a byproduct of your growth. When he sees that his actions no longer have the power to derail your joy, he becomes confused, not because you're acting, but because you've evolved. Tonight, we are going to talk about the 3 pillars of the unshakable soul. I'm going to show you why your silence is louder than your shouting, and why the most powerful thing you can do when someone treats you like an option is to remove yourself from the menu entirely. If you stay until the end, I'm going to share the one question you must ask yourself that will instantly stop you from ever chasing someone who is running away from your value. My friends, I want you to take a deep breath with me just for a second, because I know why you're here. You're here because there is a weight in your chest. You're here because someone you gave your heart to, someone you trusted, decided to mishandle that gift. And right now you're feeling the urge to fix it, to fight it, or to find out why. But what if I told you that the reason they hurt you is actually the least important part of this journey? What if I told you that the most magnetic, powerful version of you is waiting on the other side of your decision to stop explaining yourself? If you listen to nothing else today, listen to this. The person who broke you cannot be the person who fixes you. If you stay with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to flip the script. Not by being cruel, but by being complete. When someone hurts us, our ego wants to win. We think winning is getting an apology. We think winning is making them feel the sting we feel. But in the monk tradition, we learn that the greatest victory is the one over our own impulses. The most confusing thing you can do to a man who has hurt you is to prosper in his absence. When he expects you to be broken, be building. When he expects you to be calling upon your own higher purpose. This isn't about fake it till you make it. It's about faith it till you become it. We often try to confuse people with mind games. We wait 3 hours to text back, or we post a photo to make them feel a certain way. But that's still letting them dictate your actions. True confusion happens when you become a mirror. If someone treats you with indifference, you don't meet them with more effort. You meet them with distance. You don't have to tell them you're leaving. Your energy simply leaves the room. You become a ghost to their toxicity because your frequency has moved to a higher station. I want you to remember this. Your value is not a fluctuating stock market. It doesn't go down because someone failed to see it. A diamond in the dark is still a diamond. It just needs a different light to shine. Stop asking, why did he do this to me? And start asking, what did I allow that I will never allow again? That shift, that internal pivot, is where your power lives. When you find your own center, The person who hurt you will be confused by your stillness. They will wonder how you stayed so strong. And the answer will be simple. You stopped looking for your worth in the pockets of someone who was never rich enough to afford you. The reason we feel so drained after someone hurts us isn't just because of the pain itself. It's because we have entered what I call the predictability trap. When someone treats you poorly, neglects your feelings, or walks away, they are operating from a subconscious script. They have a mental map of how they expect you to respond. They expect the frantic text messages at 2 a.m. asking for closure. They expect the long emotional paragraphs explaining why you're hurt. They expect the social media monitoring, the indirect posts, and the visible display of your brokenness. In their mind, your pain is a form of validation. It confirms that they have power over your internal state. It tells them that they are the sun and you are the planet orbiting their chaos. When you fall into these predictable patterns, you aren't actually communicating your worth. You are inadvertently reinforcing their ego. You are showing them that even when they treat you with less than you deserve, they still occupy the most valuable real estate in your mind. This is the trap. It keeps you looping in a cycle of reaction rather than action. Every time you react to their coldness with heat or their silence with noise, you are feeding the very dynamic that hurt you. You are giving them the payoff for their behavior. Think about it. If someone can hurt you and still get 100% of your attention, why would they ever change? You are teaching them that their mistreatment is a valid way to keep you engaged. To break the trap, you have to understand that your emotional reaction is a currency. Currently, you are spending it on someone who has proven to be a bad investment. The predictability trap relies on the fact that you are still seeking justice or understanding from the person who is unjust to you. You are waiting for them to say the words that will set you free, not realizing that the key is already in your hand. When you stop being the person they expect you to be, the person who chases, the person who begs, the person who stays stuck in the why, you create a massive psychological void. You move from being a predictable variable in their life to being a complete unknown. This isn't about being cold or calculating. It is about the radical preservation of your own energy. It is about realizing that your peace is too expensive to be traded for a moment of being right. When you refuse to play the role they've written for you, the entire play falls apart. They have to face the silence of their own actions without the buffer of your reaction. Most people spend months or even years in this trap because they think their explanation will finally make the other person understand. But you cannot use the same level of consciousness that caused the problem to solve the problem. If they didn't value your presence, they certainly won't value your protest. The trap is designed to keep you small, keep you loud, and keep you looking backward. Reclaiming your power starts the very second you decide to be unpredictable, not by acting out, but by turning inward. By choosing to invest that 600 words of energy back into your own growth, your own healing, and your own silence, you move from being a victim of the script to being the author of a brand new story. When we talk about the pattern interrupt, we are diving into the profound psychology of how human beings expect the world to respond to them. Every time someone hurts us, they are subconsciously placing a bet on our reaction based on the old you or the version of you they think they own. They expect the friction, the fire, and the emotional turbulence because that is the frequency they are operating on. But when you choose the pattern interrupt, you are essentially refusing to dance to the music they are playing. Imagine a record player skipping the music stops, the rhythm is lost, and the listener is forced to pay attention to the silence. This is exactly what happens in the mind of a man who has caused you pain when you meet his chaos with a radical, unexpected peace. Most people think that to take back power, they need to be louder or more aggressive. But true power is the ability to remain unshakable when someone is trying to rattle your cage. By choosing not to engage in the predictable back and forth of blame and defense, you are performing a spiritual bypass of their ego. You are saying, without speaking a word, your actions no longer have a landing strip in my life. This creates a massive psychological vacuum for the other person. When they don't get the hit of your reaction, the tears, the anger, the desperate need for an explanation, they are forced to sit with the discomfort of their own behavior. The mirror they were trying to hold up to you is suddenly turned back on them. This interrupt isn't a tactic to get them back in a romantic sense. It is a tactic to get yourself back. You are interrupting the neural pathways in your own brain that tell you that you need their validation to feel whole. Every time you feel the urge to send that text or check that profile, and you instead choose to take a deep breath and return to your own center, you are rewiring your soul for sovereignty. You are teaching your nervous system that you are safe, even when you are being mistreated, because your safety doesn't come from their approval. This is where the confusion sets in for them. They see a version of you they don't recognize, a version that is composed, centered, and strangely silent. They begin to wonder if they ever really knew you at all, or more importantly, if they have lost the privilege of knowing you forever. The pattern interrupt is the ultimate act of self-respect, because it acknowledges that your energy is a limited resource and you refuse to spend it on a conflict that has no resolution. You are choosing to be the calm in the storm, not because the storm isn't real, but because you have realized that you are the ocean and the storm is just a surface level event. This shift in perspective is what truly reclaims your power. It moves you from being a reactive object to a proactive subject in your own life. You are no longer waiting for the other person to change so that you can feel better. You are changing your response so that their behavior no longer has the power to make you feel worse. This is the art of becoming emotionally expensive. When you are predictable, you are cheap in their eyes, because your reactions are guaranteed. When you interrupt the pattern, you become priceless, because your inner peace is no longer for sale at the price of their drama. When we speak about detachment, we often mistake it for coldness or a lack of caring. But in reality, detachment is the highest form of self-love and the ultimate superpower in a world that tries to pull us in 1,000 different directions. To detach is not to become a stone, it is to become the sky. The clouds of pain, the storms of mistreatment, and the winds of someone else's inconsistency can move through the sky, but they can never stain it, and they can never change its fundamental nature. When a man hurts you, he is essentially trying to tether your worth to his behavior. He wants your happiness to be a shadow of his presence and your sadness to be a reflection of his absence. Detachment is the act of cutting that cord. It is the realization that while you can love someone with the fullness of your heart, you must never give them the power to destroy your peace. This is the art of loving without losing yourself. Most of us have been taught that to love deeply means to be attached to an outcome, to need the relationship to look a certain way, to need the person to act a certain way, or to need their validation to feel beautiful. But that is not love. That is a contract based on fear. Detachment allows you to step back and see the situation for what it truly is, rather than what you hoped it would be. It gives you the bird's eye view of your own life. When you are detached, you can watch a person's hurtful actions and think that is a reflection of their internal chaos, not a reflection of my value. You stop taking their brokenness personally. This shift is what creates the most profound confusion in the person who hurt you. They expect you to be entangled in the mess they created. They expect you to be drowning in the why and the how could you. Instead, they find someone who has stepped out of the pool entirely. You are standing on the deck, dry and composed, not because you didn't feel the water, but because you refused to let it pull you under. Detachment is about letting go without bitterness. Bitterness is just another form of attachment. It is a heavy, dark chain that keeps you linked to the person who caused you pain. If you are angry, you are still connected. If you are seeking revenge, you are still obsessed. But when you are truly detached, you have no need for them to suffer because you are too busy thriving. You have moved your investment from them to you. This superpower allows you to set boundaries that are made of steel, but wrapped in silk. You don't have to scream your boundaries, you simply live them. You become a person who is capable of walking away from anything that no longer serves your soul. And you do it with a smile because you know that your source of joy was never in their hands to begin with. You begin to understand that people are like seasons. Some are meant to bring growth, some are meant to bring harvest, and some are meant to fall away so that new life can begin. By detaching from the need for them to be different, you free yourself to be exactly who you are meant to be. You reclaim the energy you were using to hold on, and you use it to climb higher. This is the quiet strength that leaves others wondering how you stayed so whole while they were trying to break you into pieces. You didn't break because you weren't leaning on them for support. You were standing on your own foundation. To truly reclaim your power, you have to master the art of the internal pivot, which is the shift from looking outward at someone else's behavior to looking inward at your own soul's architecture. When a man hurts you, the natural human instinct is to pick up a magnifying glass and study him. We spend hours analyzing his childhood, his attachment style, his last seen status, and the subtext of his coldness. We become detectives of our own misery, trying to solve a crime that has already been committed. But refocusing the lens means putting down the magnifying glass and picking up a mirror. It means asking a much more uncomfortable, yet much more liberating question: what is this situation trying to reveal to me about my own boundaries? Most of our pain doesn't actually come from what someone else did. It comes from the fact that we stayed when our intuition told us to leave, or we lowered our standards to keep a connection that was already fading. When you refocus the lens, you stop being a victim of his story and start being the hero of yours. You realize that his inability to value you isn't a reflection of your worth, but it is a reflection of your threshold for what you will tolerate. This shift is the ultimate pattern interrupt because it removes the other person from the pedestal of being the problem and places you back in the driver's seat of the solution. If you spend all your time trying to figure out why did he do this, you are staying in his energy, in his mind, and in his dysfunction. You are essentially living his life instead of yours. But the moment you ask, why did I allow myself to be in a position where this could happen? You are taking your power back. This isn't about self-blame. It is about self-accountability. Blame is heavy and keeps you stuck. Accountability is light and sets you free. When you refocus the lens, you begin to see that this person wasn't just a source of pain, but a teacher of boundaries. They came into your life to show you exactly where you are still leaking energy. They showed you where you are still seeking external validation to fill an internal void. By shifting the focus, you stop waiting for them to change so that you can feel better. You decide to feel better by changing the way you interact with people who don't deserve your light. This is what truly confuses someone who has hurt you. They expect you to be obsessed with them, but instead, they find that you have become obsessed with your own evolution. They see that you aren't mourning the loss of them, you are celebrating the discovery of yourself. You are no longer asking for permission to be respected. You are simply existing in a state where respect is the only entry requirement for your presence. This internal shift changes your entire vibration. You move from a place of lack, needing him to fill a hole, to a place of abundance where you are already whole and he was simply a guest who didn't know how to behave. Refocusing the lens is the process of taking all that wasted investigative energy and pouring it into your own passions, your own healing, and your own peace. You start to realize that the closure you are seeking from him is actually something you give to yourself. It is the closing of a chapter that no longer serves your growth. When you stop looking at him as the person who broke you and start looking at him as the catalyst for your awakening, The pain loses its grip. You are no longer reacting to a wound, you are responding to a lesson. This is how you become unshakable, by realizing that every external disappointment is just an invitation to deepen your internal connection. The ultimate form of confusion you can ever gift to someone who has devalued you is the sight of you living a life that no longer has a vacancy for their chaos. We often think that getting back at someone requires a confrontation, a final stinging word, or a moment where they see us and regret what they lost. But those are all still forms of attachment. They are all ways of staying tethered to their opinion of us. The return to self is a different frequency entirely. It is the quiet, steady realization that your life is a sacred space, and you are the gatekeeper of who gets to stay there. When a man hurts you, he operates under the assumption that he has left an indelible mark on your soul, that he has stolen a piece of your joy that you can't get back without his permission. He expects to see a version of you that is permanently altered by his absence, perhaps a version that is cynical, closed off, or perpetually waiting for an explanation. When you return to yourself, you prove that your joy was never his to take. You realize that you aren't a broken vessel. You are a self-healing ecosystem. You start doing the things you stopped doing because you were too busy worrying about him. You return to your hobbies, your friendships, your physical health, and your spiritual practice with a renewed sense of devotion. This isn't about moving on in the way the world describes it, which is often just running into the arms of someone else to forget the first person. This is about moving into your own heart. It is the process of becoming your own soulmate. You begin to provide for yourself the very things you were begging him for: consistency, presence, and unconditional regard. This creates a magnetic shift in your energy that is impossible to ignore. When he looks back, and they almost always do, he doesn't find a woman who is bitter or waiting. He finds a woman who has evolved past the version of herself that he was able to hurt. He finds someone who is thriving not in spite of him, but simply because she decided to choose herself. This is the most profound confusion because it defies the logic of the ego. The ego believes it is central to everyone else's story. So when you show that he is no longer even a supporting character in yours, his entire reality is shaken. You aren't playing a game of look how well I'm doing. You are simply doing well because you finally realize that your energy is too precious to be spent on a memory. You start to see that the space he left wasn't an empty hole. It was an opening for something better to enter. You fill that space with your own light, your own ambition, and your own peace. You reach a point where if he were to reach out, your first thought wouldn't be finally, but rather why. You become so aligned with your own purpose that his presence would actually be a distraction from the beautiful life you've built without him. This is the true reclamation of power. It is the moment you realize that the best revenge is not success, and it's not even silence. It is the genuine, soul-deep indifference that comes from knowing you are exactly where you are supposed to be, and he is no longer part of the map. You have returned to the source of your own strength, and in that place, you are untouchable.